Hi, my name is Simon Landau, and welcome to the Sea Show. Today's question is, how do fish swim? Well, mostly all fish swim in weaving movements of their bodies. While a fish is swimming, its head stays still, while its body moves in a wave pattern. There are many different kinds of fish. There are many different kinds of swimming fish, such as cruisers and burst swimmers. Cruisers are mostly in search for food, and they have a big blood carrying capacity. And burst swimmers usually stay in the same place, like coral reefs, and that is how fish swim. Coming up next is an interview. Hi, my name is Simon Landau here at the Aquarium of the Pacific. We have a special guest here today.
Hi. Good morning, boys and girls. My name is Emily, and I work here as an education specialist, which means I'm a teacher at the Aquarium of the Pacific. So I'm glad to be joining you today, Simon.
Okay. So Emily, I'm here to talk to you about deep sea fish. And I have some questions here, like what kind of creatures live in the abyss?
Well, the deep dark sea is a really important and really kind of strange habitat. So the animals you see kind of behind us, these are shallow water animals. So if you went snorkeling in the tropical Pacific, you'd see animals like these kind of reef fishes, very colorful, very bright. There's a lot of light coming through, the water's crystal clear. But as soon as you get deeper and deeper, and if we go way down in the ocean, it's much colder water, it's much darker, and there's a lot of pressure down there. So it's a hard place to live. And so because of that, there's a lot of different animals that live down there. Still very diverse, you just don't see lots and lots of them. You would have to search for them a little bit, but they're very unusual. They kind of look like monsters sometimes.
My next question is, how have they adapted to their environment?
Well, the thing about the deep sea is it's a hard place to live, like I said. So these animals are very well adapted for survival. So a lot of them are really small. Like you and I were talking before about deep sea fish. How big are deep sea fish?
Like a couple of inches.
Yeah, just a couple of inches. Like they could really fit in your hand. So even though you see them in movies or TV and they look like big monsters with big teeth, they're actually really tiny little animals. That's because it's really hard to get food down there. So there's lots of invertebrates, there's lots of fish that live down there, but it's really hard to get food, so they don't get very big. Just like if we didn't have that much food, we'd probably be much smaller animals, right? So it's the same thing down there. They're really well adapted. They're really good at keeping food in when they actually catch their food, because they don't eat very often. They don't eat every day like we do. We eat 2-3 times a day. They may eat once a week or once a month or even once every couple of months, depending on the species. So a lot of them have really big teeth. A lot of them have to be camouflaged in order to hide from, kind of predators down there. And so they have a lot of special adaptations. And because it's so dark down there, some of them even make light.
That actually goes into our next question, is how do they light up?
So light that's made by animals is something called bioluminescence. Bio means life, and luminescence means light. And so basically these animals have light organs built in their bodies. And so a lot of them either make chemical reactions happen, or they have bacteria in their bodies that make these chemical reactions occur. And basically what it is kind of works like a lightning bug, which we don't have here, but we have on the East Coast. And the chemical reaction makes light because this product from the chemicals mixing together is really exciting. Kind of like if we ate candy, we'd be like excitable, So the chemicals are really excited and it shoots light on.
And then my next question is kind of about the same thing. Why do they light up?
Well, they light up for a lot of different reasons. So a lot of them want to light up to actually light their path, like to show their way, or to see prey, see food items. Some of them will light up to attract mates, because you don't see this many fish down there. It's less dense, so you maybe see 1 or 2 every couple minutes, And then so some of them light up to attract mates. Some of them light up to communicate with one another. And the coolest thing, I think, is there's microscopic kind of organisms in the ocean that actually light up, and it's called a burglar alarm hypothesis. So what happens is, if they're tiny microscopic animals or organisms, if something tries to eat them, they light up so that they're hoping that they should expose the thing that's trying to eat them to something even bigger. So they actually, that's called the burglar alarm hypothesis. So it's really neat.
Then also, we have something that's kind of not on the same exact topic.
Okay.
Is how do they survive under this really intense water pressure?
So they have lots of different adaptations. A lot of them, a lot of normal fish, when they live up here in the surface water, have really big swim bladders, and it's like a gas-filled bladder. The fish that you see in the deep sea can't have big air spaces like that, so their bodies are much more dense and compact, and they are just adapted, like their bone structure, all their organs are adapted to certain pressures. So if we were to take an animal from the very deepest part of the deep sea and pull it up to the surface, it's like all that pressure is not pushing on their bodies anymore, so they actually explode if you try to bring them up.
So then, is that kind of why they get that like small body shape?
Well, the small body shape is more just over time. They just don't grow to be very big. It's not that stuff is pressing on them. It's just that it's hard to get food. Basically, they wait for, in science we call it a subsidy, but basically it just means they have to wait for stuff to fall down from the surface in order to get any sort of food.
So they're kind of like scavengers.
Yeah, a lot of them are scavengers because plants don't grow down there at all, so they can't eat plants. There's no sunlight down there.
Okay. That actually, the last part leads into my next question. How do they survive without sunlight?
Well, it's just like what we were talking about. So because there aren't any plants, the base of the food chain isn't there, they really have to scavenge and find anything they can. And so a lot of them wait for like dead and decaying animals and plants and things that fall out from the surface ocean to come down, and they eat them.
Okay. Well, I think we already answered what do they eat. So what is the temperature of the abyss, and how do they survive in it?
Well, the temperature, if you were to just explore most of the deep ocean, is actually very, very cold because there's not a whole lot of sunlight, and actually cold water is the norm in the deep sea because cold water is very dense. So most of it's super, super cold. These animals are just really well adapted for that kind of cold temperature, and in fact their blood, all the chemicals in their bodies are kind of tuned in to that cold temperature.
Got it. Those are most of the questions that I answered, and so that is most of the reasons or questions about